in this edition of Southern Newsweek. Dunedin broadcaster and City Councillor Neil Collins dies. Heavy rain and flooding cuts off the township of Henley. And 11,000 runners compete in the Queenstown Marathon. Kia ora, good evening, I'm Melissa Barton. Dunedin broadcaster and City Councillor Neil Collins died this week following an illness. Mr Collins began his radio career as a 17-year-old volunteer at 4XD in the late 1950s and served as a councillor for 23 years.
Dunedin broadcaster Neil Collins, seen here back in 2015 on the last morning of his broadcasting career. But the man who spearheaded the establishment of Radio Dunedin has died following an illness, aged 77. Radio Dunedin colleague Owen Rooney says he was a great mate.
He was the consummate professional, and I've said this so many times now, there are plenty of radio announcers in this world, but there are not many communicators, and he was the best.
Neil Collins was involved in 16 radiothons and interviewed everyone from the Beatles to the Rolling Stones.
You know, I was just a kid that grew up in the city, never dreaming that I'd get to meet the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, work on stage with them at the town hall, introducing Tom Jones on stage, Gene Pitney, touring with these guys.
And in a lot of cases he remained friends with them. You know, the Charlie Prides of this world and the Roy Orbison up until Roy's passing. You know, Neil communicated with them.
But for all his success, Collins chose to remain in Dunedin throughout his career.
The question I asked Neil, why didn't you go elsewhere? He said he loved Dunedin. End of conversation. That's all he would say about it. I love Dunedin.
Collins was elected to the Dunedin City Council in 1989, serving as a councillor for 23 years.
You know, it was the standing joke. Councillor Collins has turned up for work today. And then, of course, he'd have the hearings for what's going to happen over the next 3 or 4 years. And he wouldn't be there, so Councillor Collins is otherwise occupied. Wow.
But his first love was broadcasting, and on that last day behind the mic 3 years ago, he said it had been a privilege to work in the industry for so long.
It's just been packed one year after the other, and I've been lucky, really lucky. And I look back on a career that truly, I just come back to the word, I've been blessed, been so lucky.
In Dunedin, the South Today.
A watchful eye was kept on floodwaters following heavy rain, with the Clutha River being near its highest level in 20 years. Part of the southern region went into clean-up mode, with the township of Henley still cut off by flood waters, and authorities were on standby as another severe weather watch was issued.
Henley residents remain trapped after heavy flooding yesterday. 15 households at Henley are cut off by floodwaters. The Dunedin City Council says the Tyree settlement is isolated by a slip on one road and a bridge which remains underwater.
So Henley remains cut off, and our welfare teams are keeping an eye on the individuals in there and seeing what support might be needed.
Residents who didn't evacuate yesterday could be trapped for longer than anticipated, as the Otago Regional Council predicts the water won't recede as quickly as usual. Meanwhile, roads in the Clutha Valley affected by the river are closed and others damaged. Drivers are being asked to exercise caution on all roads, to obey road closed signs and to be vigilant for debris left by the receding water.
Yeah, well, we encourage people obviously to stay away from any floodwater, to report floodwater. Look out for their neighbours, let council know if there's any issues they think we might be able to help with.
Severe downpours hit Otago yesterday, causing power outages, landslips and evacuations. Rivers spilled and caused widespread flooding in many areas. Rain eased today, but rivers are still being closely watched, as some haven't yet reached peak levels. More heavy rain's likely as the Met Service has issued another severe weather warning for the region.
We've got the Civil Defence and our neighbouring councils all exchanging information. And as soon as we think there's some potential danger, then or potential risk or potential danger, then we'll get together and either activate or ramp things up. Yeah.
Yesterday was Dunedin's wettest ever November day in a month which has already had 3 times the average rainfall. In Mosgiel, Gordon Road was inundated by surface flooding, which led to it being closed for a short time. Retailers scrambling to find sandbags to protect their stores from the rising water. Ravensbourne was another area badly hit by the weather. The front of one property opposite Moller Park turned into a waterfall. The City Council's recommending people stay out of waterways and not collect shellfish for the next 48 hours. In Dunedin, the South Today.
Queenstown's biggest marathon to date saw more than 11,000 runners take to the resort's streets in surprise sunshine on Saturday. Thousands of visitors were in town for the Queenstown International Marathon, with the event boosting their local economy by an estimated $8 million.
Just some of more than 11,000 runners setting off on the 5th Queenstown International Marathon. Runners across 4 events soaking up the sun as they made their way to the finish line at the Queenstown Recreation Ground. One of the oldest competitors finished the half marathon in just under 3.5 hours, still undecided if it'll be her last.
If I'm still there, I will think about it.
A team of almost 600 volunteers handed out 8,500 bananas to runners at the finish line and kept the athletes hydrated around the course.
One guy that came up and he wanted me to fill his cup up, just half, and he basically slipped it out of my hand. And then he came back to fill up the other half, so don't know what the point was there, but yeah, that'll probably be the highlight of my day. 28-year-old Wellingtonian Daniel Jones became a marathon champion for the first time, taking out the men's race.
It's pretty awesome, nice feeling. It's my first marathon win, so it's a good one to tick off. It's great.
While 31-year-old Hannah Oldroyd returned to once again win gold in the women's race.
So unexpected, it's unreal. I was thinking 5th or 6th might be reasonable, look at the start line and then sort of through the first half. But yeah, over me.
Organisers say the events injected around $8 million into the local economy in Queenstown, the south today.
A sculpture of celebrated Canterbury artist Austin Deans was unveiled in the foothills of the village he lived and loved, Peel Forest, inland from Geraldine.
Hidden under a giant tartan kilt, a sculpture of the much-admired artist Austin Deans waiting to be unveiled in Peel Forest, a town he called home for over 50 years. Graham Carr, who owns Peel Forest Estate, commissioned Dean's son to create the memorial artwork, which had its public debut on Sunday.
I got in touch with Paul Deans, who was delighted to do this sculpture of his father. And actually, to be honest, I haven't seen it yet. I paid for it. If I don't like it, I might get a refund, I don't know.
A selection of Dean's works, including some he did as a prisoner of war, were also on display at the Peel Forest Hall. Carr says the kilt-wearing painter and art teacher was an iconic figure in the region.
He was a wonderful, humble man, and we often saw him on the side of the road with his shirt off and his kilt on, and his shamatanti and sketching away. He was just an amazing character for this district.
Paul Deans says he's pleased to have been asked to make an artwork of his father.
It's been a real privilege to do this sculpture of Dad, and it's reconnected me with Peel Forest.
The sculpture was unveiled by one of Dean's grandchildren, Esther, who was also a keen painter herself. Deans died in Christchurch in 2011 and is recognised as one of New Zealand's great artists. In Peel Forest, for the South Today.
While many schools have systems in place to control when their pupils use tablets and laptops, St Hilda's Collegiate is now taking that control one step further. From next year, the school will also control when pupils use the internet on their mobile phones at school, and the system will be expanded to allow parents to control usage at home.
There's no doubting the popularity of social media among teenagers, but from next year students at Dunedin St Hilda's Collegiate will have their usage controlled not only at school but at home as well. Parents will be able to buy a $35 app called Family Zone, which allows them to filter online content on all their children's digital devices and have control over when they can access the web.
So what we're hoping is it will remove all those distractions that often come when your phone beeps and twirls and makes funny noises, and that girls are able to focus on their learning.
She says it's important to control mobile phone usage in particular.
And we hope lend to really rich conversations around social media, how we use it, why we use it, when we need to use it, and what's a responsible digital citizen using those platforms for.
The Family Zone app allows the school to shut down 3G and 4G mobile broadband internet, but pupils will still be able to send texts and make phone calls, and the initiative's getting positive feedback from parents.
It's about parents and girls having those conversations around parents getting a better understanding of why girls might need to be on social media or why they want to stay connected, because we do realise that it's a very powerful tool for lots of really good reasons, and it's helping the girls to be able to manage that.
She says the app will be compulsory for students if they want to use their digital devices at school, but it's up to families to decide if they want to use it at home. In Dunedin, the South Today.
After the break on Southern Newsweek, junior Otago pupils get to spend a week playing sports such as volleyball, and Lime scooters are set to expand into Dunedin. Welcome back. Children were schooled in a violence-free lifestyle this week as the South Island White Ribbon Ride made its way to Invercargill. The annual motorbike ride both raises awareness and tackles the issue of domestic violence.
But it's about respecting people.
Fernworth primary school pupils treated to a presentation from a bunch of hardened bikers. Now in its 7th year, the White Ribbon Ride is about educating children from a young age that violence against women is not okay. Invercargill man Blair McKenzie says he grew up in a family that had problems with anger.
As a young guy, I just learned to be pretty angry and a bit dysfunctional, and carried that on in my life for about the first 32 years, and ended up becoming the exact person that I despised, you know.
At age 32, Mackenzie converted to Christianity, which changed his approach to life.
Anger is, as we all know, it's a God-given emotion, you know, we've all got it, and it can be used well, but if it's not controlled and if it's not nurtured to be used in a positive way, then it is just pretty ugly.
He says stopping violence in families is everyone's responsibility.
You don't have to be a violent offender. You don't have to be anybody special. A concerned citizen who's got a friend, a loved one, and they know stuff is happening in that relationship, that family, you've got to step up.
14 permanent bikers are taking part in this year's White Ribbon Ride, which is set to conclude in Nelson on Sunday. In Invercargill for the South Today.
Staying with two-wheeled transport, since Lime e-scooters launched in Auckland and Christchurch last month, more than 300,000 individual trips have been taken on the service. And the phenomenon is set to expand into Dunedin and Wellington before the end of the year.
Blink and you'll miss them. Electronic or e-scooters are speeding into the Dunedin market. A North East Valley distributor says demand is increasing and the city's geography isn't a problem for one of the models they supply.
And then being in Dunedin, we've got one now that can pretty well do most hills in Dunedin as well. So, you know, that's a biggie because of the fact that in such a steep city, the ability to just get around and not be thwarted by our hills.
Anecdotally, it seems only a couple of months ago, just a handful of New Zealanders would have known what an e-scooter is. But recent publicity surrounding scooter sharing company Lime has changed all that. Parker says the company's proposed introduction into Dunedin will be good for business.
I'm really interested in the integration of electric transport. So for me, it's about being able to put one of these in the back of a vehicle or put it on the bus, or the ability to go down the hill a couple of k's to the bus, get on it and so on.
E-scooters don't meet the New Zealand Transport Agency's definition of a motor vehicle, meaning they can be ridden on footpaths, roads and cycle lanes. Otago Daily Times reporter Tim Miller tried an e-scooter out recently, pushing the vehicle to its top speed of more than 25 kilometres an hour.
But what is the most surprising thing is they're quick, and how quick you can get up to the top speed. The road here is only probably just over 100 metres long with that, and I got up to top speed in 10 seconds, so 20, 25, 26, 27k.
But it hasn't been a smooth ride for the e-scooter industry so far, with nearly 150 ACC claims being lodged for injuries in just a couple of months. Dunedin's set to host a 3-month trial of rental scooters before the end of the year. And currently there's no Dunedin City Council bylaw restricting the use of scooters in the city, but the council says it's working with Lime to create a safety agreement. In Dunedin, the South Today.
As the junior secondary school's academic year comes to a close, Otago pupils were getting out of the classroom and playing sports. However, next Friday we'll see 1,300 of New Zealand's best junior athletes descend on Dunedin as the city hosts the national championships.
Getting to grips with volleyball. Year 9 and 10 pupils taking part in the annual junior sports tournament held over the week in venues such as Dunedin's Edgar Centre. Other activities have included dodgeball and rubbish bin cricket, with an emphasis on fun and participation, which suits the pupils well.
There's a lot of research being done by Sport New Zealand and community groups around why kids participate in sport. And this generation kind of is coming out saying that they just want to have fun with friends, a little bit less competition, little shorter seasons, kind of play when and where they want.
After this week's tournament, they'll be well equipped with ideas on how to have fun over the summer at minimal cost.
There's a lot of easy accessible environments. You don't need to pay to go, you know, just anything on a park, and if you've got a good group of friends then you can make do, and I think that's probably really popular with kids these days, is making up their own rules for their own games, not having officials and just going out there and just having a good time amongst themselves, and they figure it out.
However, things get serious next week when the city hosts the National Secondary School Athletics Championships. It's one of the biggest school sports events, attracting the best of the best school-age athletes from around the country.
Most sports have a pathway, and the New Zealand Secondary School Athletics is, you know, it's the top of the secondary school athletics ladder as far as a pathway goes. A lot of the athletes will be club athletes as well, and they'll go further in their club champs, but there is a team that's selected out of this to participate in overseas competitions as well.
The national champs start next Friday at Dunedin's Caledonian Ground, with over 1,300 athletes from more than 200 schools. In Dunedin, for the South Today.
School pupils in Greymouth got a chance to acquire a taste for sports through a series of fun team building exercises. Top Team, who were visiting from Canterbury, gave the pupils a number of tasks and challenges to complete through teamwork.
Taking part in a number of innovative team challenges, these pupils from Greymain School are learning all about teamwork thanks to a visit by the Top Team caravan from Canterbury. Inspired by post-quake Christchurch, Top Team creates a pathway to physical activity and sports for pupils who may not come from sporting backgrounds.
Well, this is Sport Canterbury's Top Team. We bring it across in the caravan all the way over from Christchurch. We go around the schools. It's all about team building and bonding for the kids with a variety of activities, from water games to throwing to everything we can think of.
Over 30,000 Canterbury and West Coast pupils have taken part in the Top Team Challenge over the past 6 years, with the event having been staged at almost 300 schools.
It's really about the team building side of things. Quite often we've got sporting kids who rush in, so there's strategic thinking, there's really just involvement, activity, and but the team bonding as much as anything. That's what we're really trying to build.
The Top Team Challenge will be visiting various schools around the West Coast this week, with Paroa School being scheduled for tomorrow. In Greymouth, for the South Today.
The outbreak of Mycoplasma bovis has seen cattle shows cancelled throughout the South Island. But the rebranded New Zealand Agricultural Show was an opportunity to put a new biosecurity protocol into action.
Cattle disease Mycoplasma bovis means stricter biosecurity conditions for agricultural shows. And the new protocol was in effect at the weekend's New Zealand Agricultural Show in Canterbury. Blenheim Police Constable Richard Van Ash took out the prize for Supreme Champion Beef Cattle Beast and went on to win Supreme Animal of the Show, but the animal concerned was a little camera shy.
Absolutely thrilled to win today.
Is it the first time you've won it before?
I believe it's the second time that the studs, fourth time, the studs won the Meat and Wool Cup. I've won it once previously, and Father's won it twice evidently.
The new biosecurity protocol with MPI was put into practice for the first time last week. Rangiora High School Cattle Show team member Zoe Lofhagen says the new regulations are stringent but necessary.
But different times, different areas, and all different rules and the ways we have to follow
that Canterbury MP shows that have put in place for us. So it's very strict, but it's really good. It means no one can get the no one can pass the disease.
All manner of beasts were on display at the 156th Canterbury Agricultural Show, from alpaca to Clydesdale horses to typical and unusual sheep breeds and vintage farm machinery.
I've got 4 tractors here. There's John Deere Model G, John Deere Model M, Caterpillar 10, it's a very small Caterpillar, and a Matthew Ferguson 35X.
Owen Neal says the large lineup of John Deere tractors marks 100 years of the well-known farm machinery brand. Former All Black Richard Lowe was among those wrangling cattle, while Christchurch Mayor Leanne Dalziel was among the many thousands of people getting a taste of country life. In Canterbury, the South Today.
After the break on Southern Newsweek, people are encouraged to spend a month or two fostering homeless kittens, and all sorts of pets receive a church blessing in Timaru. Thanks for staying with us. A first-time animal fosterer is thrilled to be opening up her home to a family of felines. Dunedin woman Jess Cripps is encouraging more people to take the step as the SPCA prepares for kitten season.
Dunedin woman Jess Cripps with a few new additions to her household. She's taken on the role of fostering these newborn felines as the SPCA prepares for kitten season.
I love them, but I can't have any more, so I thought, if I can just help raise some kittens and go off onto really good forever homes.
The season lasts from now until March next year. The SPCA is looking for families for up to 100 kittens to help them recover from surgery or become socialised and used to a home environment. It supplies all food, medicine, bedding and toys to make them comfortable. Jess is currently fostering 10-month-old cat Leah and her 3 kittens, Betty, Jack and Sally.
This is Jack. This is the same, looks exactly the same as his sister. You got something in your eye. What have you got in your eye? What's that?
She'll look after them until they can be de-sexed, and although they've only just opened their eyes, the kittens are already developing personalities.
They've just started really moving around in the last couple of days, so their personalities will start coming out really well within the next week. But this one here's a little Sammy. She's always seemed to be quite confident.
Dunedin SPCA says it has a limited amount of space in its centres, and they rely on fosterers to offer temporary homes, generally from 2 to 6 weeks. In Dunedin, the South Today.
And staying with cuddly pets, animals were invited to a church blessing in Timaru. 14 dogs, 1 cat, a guinea pig, a hen and an alpaca attended the annual blessing of the animals at St Mary's Church last weekend.
Blessed are the sheep, the alpaca and even the odd noisy mongrel. The doors of St Mary's in Timaru were thrown open to an animal blessing service over the weekend, with all manner of beasts coming to be blessed.
To come when he had given you thanks, he gave it to them and said, "Drink this, all of you, for this is my blood of the new covenant."
The 10 a.m. service featured the occasional bark-off, and quiet periods were marked by the contented crooning of the chook. Enterprise the alpaca won the prize for being the most exotic animal, but all animals were equally blessed by both the Reverend John Schoaf and the Reverend Heather Robertson. Creatures and humans were entertained by the St Mary's Children's Choir. In Timaru, the South Today.
Students at Kaikorai Valley College are getting the chance to help boost the South's trout population. An initiative by Fish and Game is giving pupils the opportunity to see the transformation from egg to fish.
They're about 5 weeks old and about 4 centimetres long, but these baby rainbow trout at Dunedin's Kaikorai Valley College will grow to be more than ½ a metre in the next few years. They're currently being taken care of by a group of students as part of a schools project by Fish and Game.
The fish arrive as eyed over, so they arrive from the McRae's hatchery in the egg. They hatch out in the lab, in the tank, and the students get to see them go through different stages of development until they're ready to release.
There's more than 40 trout in the tank being diligently nursed into adolescence by the keen young students. This is the 5th year the school's participated, giving pupils a rare chance to see the transformation from egg to small fish.
It's not something that happens in a lab normally, so it's really special to be able to share that part of being a New Zealander. Everyone's used to the idea of trout on the table, but the idea of what goes into getting to that stage is good.
The trout have actually become more like classroom pets, complete with names.
My students have got individuals that they can identify in the tank, and yes, I understand there's a fluffy in there. I got very worried the first time someone told me that they saw a fluffy trout, because fluffy and trout is not good usually, but it's just a name. But it's a cool name.
The fish are set to be released into Dunedin's southern reservoir on Mount Grand next week. In Dunedin, the South Today.
Every pair of shoes in Kevin Downey's extensive collection is laced with memories from his past. Now the footwear fanatic is sharing those memories by showing just a fraction of his huge collection in an exhibition showing in Invercargill.
Kevin Downey owns enough pair of shoes to make even Imelda Marcos blush. More than 100 pairs from his collection are set to go on display at his sold-out exhibition. Just a fraction of what he claims is without doubt the largest shoe collection in the country.
A lot of them are done by special designers or artists, and they're very limited editions, only made in limited numbers. Ones that are only 200-300 pairs.
Downey fell in love with shoes as a teenager living in Dundee in Scotland when he realised they were what helped people stand out in the crowd.
When I was growing up in mid-teens and at school, a lot of guys around me and girls around me all started to wear brands and labels, and it made them identify something different from themselves, and it made them stand out. This is something that never left me.
He says with about 25 years in the fashion industry, it was natural for him to collect a few things over the years. He estimates he now has around 700 pairs of shoes, each with a distinct year, country, city or shoe company headquarters from around the world.
And other people collect fridge magnets, other people collect all sorts of things. I use shoes as my memories of visiting these countries and cities.
And he says it hasn't been easy picking out a limited number of pairs to put on display.
It's been a very difficult choice, actually, selecting down what we can show and what we can't. But hopefully there's enough here that people are going to have a memory to themselves to relate to.
The sold-out exhibition opens on Friday at Classic Motorcycle Mecca in Invercargill, the South Today.
That's all for Southern Newsweek. Get online and check us out on Facebook or keep up with Southern News via our website channel39.co.nz. I'm Melissa Barton, thanks for watching.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.